A standard 5-gallon plastic bucket, 1 pound of plain unpeeled potatoes, a single handful of rich soil from an undisturbed forest floor, a small scoop of unrefined sea salt, and exactly 5 minutes of your labor. That is absolutely everything required to establish a highly efficient, self-replicating biological factory right in your own backyard. What we are talking about is a living ecosystem that doubles its population every 48 hours, working continuously to synthesize 6 critical plant growth regulators at the exact same time. It is a biological engine that consistently outperforms the complex synthetic biostimulant products sitting on commercial garden center shelves at $30, $40, or even $50 a bottle. The corporate agricultural chemistry industry prefers to market these powerful compounds as plant growth regulators, while academic researchers describe them formally as phytohormones. However, the traditional natural farmers, who figured out exactly how to brew them in a common plastic bucket decades ago, simply call them indigenous microorganisms. By the time you reach the end of this discussion, you will know the precise recipe. You will fully grasp the molecular biology of why it functions so effectively, and you will understand exactly why the multi-billion-dollar commercial fertilizer industry would prefer that you never learn the methods of the humble agricultural pioneers who gave this technology away to the world completely free. Before any of that profound soil chemistry makes complete sense, you truly need to understand what is actually happening inside that dark container. What we are exploring today is not just another standard liquid fertilizer designed to force temporary growth. What we are discussing is a completely self-sustaining colony of microscopic organisms that naturally manufacture the identical hormones that modern laboratories synthesize inside expensive industrial facilities. These are the exact same highly potent hormones that control whether a tiny seed successfully germinates, whether a plant stem stretches robustly toward the sunlight, whether a root system branches deeply out into the earth, and whether a ripening fruit swells to its maximum genetic potential. Every single one of these complex processes is driven by beneficial native bacteria, all produced for free, and all doubling their numbers every 48 hours inside a simple plastic bucket sitting right in your garage. If you have ever stood in the crowded gardening aisle of a big box store, staring blankly at rows of expensive bottles labeled with complicated terms like microbial inoculant, mycorrhizal blend, soil probiotic, or biostimulant complex, and wondered whether any of those premium products actually deliver on their promises, you are about to learn something that will completely transform your entire understanding of soil fertility. The potent biological substance inside those commercial bottles is not a modern technological breakthrough. It is certainly not an invention of corporate agricultural biotechnology. The beneficial microbes that you are currently paying a premium for were already living naturally in the forest floor, just 100 meters from where you grew up. They are thriving actively in the dark, loose soil underneath every healthy, undisturbed tree on Earth. For thousands of years, traditional farming cultures successfully figured out exactly how to collect these wild organisms, multiply them in massive quantities, and feed them to their crops using nothing more than natural rainwater, a simple starch source, and a bit of patience. The modern chemical companies merely figured out how to freeze-dry these living organisms, package them in beautiful plastic bottles, and charge you $60 for a single teaspoon of what you could easily cultivate yourself in unlimited quantities. What you are about to discover will fundamentally change the way you think about soil fertility and the mass-produced products lining every garden center shelf. The true story of microbial agriculture is not just a dry, technical lesson about bacteria. It is a profound look at how deep traditional farming knowledge occasionally gets erased, how simple, natural, biological processes get aggressively monetized, and how a massive billion-dollar industry rises on the backs of tiny organisms that any ordinary person could cultivate in a common bucket for the price of a single potato. Before we dive into the historical journey that made this biological breakthrough possible, I want to formally welcome each and every one of you to our channel and extend a sincere thank you for spending your valuable time with us today. If you are passionate about unlocking the deepest secrets of nature, breaking free from expensive commercial inputs, and cultivating a thriving, resilient garden with your own hands, please take a brief moment to subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell, and join our growing community of dedicated growers who believe in the true power of ecological stewardship. Your support allows us to continue unearthing these profound, untranslated agricultural blueprints and sharing them directly with you. Now, let us step back in time to understand exactly how this revolutionary method was born and why it holds the ultimate key to restoring your soil today. The story begins in its modern form in 1965 within a small, traditional farming village. A visionary local agriculturist stood on his land and watched with growing sorrow as his neighbors slowly yet systematically destroyed their ancestral fields. During this specific era, the entire agricultural world was in the absolute middle of what corporate interests celebrated as the Green Revolution. Synthetic fertilizers, aggressively imported from industrial chemical giants, were being pushed onto traditional farmers as the absolute, unquestionable future of modern agriculture. In the first few years, the chemical promises seemed to hold true as crop yields rose dramatically. But very quickly, the living soil began to fail. The land became hopelessly addicted to ever larger doses of chemical inputs just to sustain a basic harvest. Essential soil organisms vanished entirely, plant root structures weakened, and severe disease pressure increased exponentially. Farms that had successfully fed the exact same families for 15 consecutive generations suddenly required imported chemical applications every single season just to prevent total crop failure. This visionary farmer fundamentally refused to participate in this destructive chemical cycle. Instead of buying what the multi-billion-dollar corporations were selling, he turned his focused attention back to a simple miracle he had observed as a child. Underneath the thick leaf litter of any undisturbed ancient forest, the earth was vibrantly alive. The soil there was incredibly loose, beautifully dark, and completely teeming with pure white threads of beneficial fungal hyphae and invisible microscopic life. No human being had ever poured a single ounce of synthetic chemical fertilizer onto that magnificent forest floor. Yet, massive trees had grown there robustly for centuries without any human intervention, effortlessly building their own infinite fertility from nothing but natural rain, pure sunlight, fallen leaves, and the relentless metabolic activity of the diverse microbes thriving beneath the surface. This pioneering thinker spent the next 30 years asking one devastatingly simple question. If the natural forest could successfully fertilize itself completely for free, why could an ordinary backyard garden or a traditional farm not do the exact same thing? The profound methods he painstakingly developed over those decades became known globally as a system of natural farming built entirely on one central, unshakable insight: healthy soil is not a dead mineral substrate to be chemically manipulated. Healthy soil is a complex, living ecosystem dominated by native microorganisms. He demonstrated that if you collect these magnificent microorganisms directly from a healthy local forest floor, multiply them under highly controlled yet simple conditions, and reintroduce them into your home garden beds, you can easily regenerate the exact same fertility that built the great forests of the world in the first place. By the late 1990s, this original methodology was advanced even further by a brilliant successor who focused on making the entire process faster, simpler, and infinitely more scalable for ordinary people. He created a streamlined system whose philosophy translates beautifully as people who resemble nature. While the original forest microbe collection required a complex, multi-step process spanning several weeks, this modern innovator demonstrated that a highly diverse, incredibly potent microbial population could be fully cultured inside a single common bucket in just 2 to 3 days. He gave this knowledge away to the world, refusing to patent the recipe or profit from the global corporate model. ensuring that any backyard gardener on Earth could access the true blueprint of natural fertility for the price of a potato. While traditional Eastern farmers were observing the forest floor and figuring out exactly how to multiply its biology inside a plastic container, an entirely independent line of scientific research was unfolding 10,000 kilometers away inside a United States Department of Agriculture laboratory in Beltsville, Maryland. Way back in 1941, two visionary American researchers published a groundbreaking paper describing a fascinating phenomenon they had observed about common plant pollen. When they carefully extracted specific organic compounds from corn pollen and applied them directly to other living plant tissues, those tissues exhibited dramatic, accelerated growth. The astonishing effect was completely reproducible, yet the exact hidden mechanism remained a mystery for nearly 30 years. It was not until 1970 that a dedicated research team returned to this exact question, extracting oily compounds from rapeseed pollen and applying them to young pinto bean seedlings. The resulting growth response was absolutely staggering. Plant stems elongated rapidly, cell division accelerated at an unprecedented rate, and the compounds caused the plants to develop in ways that known hormones simply could not explain. Scientists eventually named this new family of steroidal compounds steroids, which became officially recognized as the definitive sixth class of plant hormones. Today, mainstream agricultural science acknowledges that steroids control cell elongation, accelerate photosynthesis, enhance seed germination, and provide intense resistance against virtually every form of environmental stress. They are so incredibly potent that they are active at concentrations of just a few parts per billion. Now, here is where our two separate stories collide in a truly mind-blowing revelation. The wild microorganisms that you collect from the local forest floor, the very ones that multiply explosively inside your homemade bucket solution every 48 hours, are not just generic decomposers eating organic matter. A massive body of modern, peer-reviewed scientific research has documented exactly what these native microbes are doing at a molecular level. They are actively manufacturing these exact same high-level hormones as part of their normal, everyday metabolism. Specific beneficial bacterial genera that dominate healthy forest soil and proliferate exponentially inside your brewing bucket, including Bacillus, Pseudomonas, and Azospirillum, have been confirmed by laboratory X-ray crystallography to synthesize master auxins that control deep root branching. They effortlessly produce cytokinins responsible for rapid cell division, gibberellins that dictate stem strength, and most importantly, rare compounds with distinct steroid-like activity. The microbes have been doing this in every healthy forest floor on Earth for hundreds of millions of years, long before any modern laboratory named a single molecule. But the magic goes even deeper than simple production through a fascinating biological phenomenon known as chemical crosstalk. When you pour this living microbial solution into your garden, a sophisticated two-way conversation begins between the plant roots and the introduced bacteria. The roots actively secrete specialized sugars and amino acids to feed the microbes, and in direct response, the bacteria colonize the root zone and trigger a mechanism called induced systemic resistance. This chemical crosstalk essentially vaccinates your crops, prompting the plant to fortify its own cell walls and naturally ward off fungal and bacterial pathogens from the inside out without a single drop of toxic chemical sprays. The structural reason why giant chemical corporations can never bottle and sell this authentic, diverse solution to you is entirely commercial, not scientific. A living, wild, highly diverse microbial ecosystem simply cannot be stabilized, freeze-dried, or trapped on a retail shelf for months at a time without the active bacteria dying or suffocating. To make a profitable, shelf-stable product, commercial companies must isolate a single, genetically uniform strain, add artificial preservatives, and charge you an exorbitant markup. In doing so, they completely strip away the biological diversity that makes natural ecosystems resilient. In the realm of soil ecology, diversity is your ultimate shield. And by brewing this wild cocktail yourself, you are delivering a living, breathing hormonal ecosystem that no commercial corporation on Earth can replicate or commodify. Now that you fully understand the profound molecular biology behind this natural phenomenon, let us construct this incredibly powerful microbial bioreactor together using a precise, simple blueprint that takes less than 5 minutes of physical setup. To begin, you will need a standard 5-gallon plastic bucket. And it is absolutely vital that you use plastic rather than metal, as the slightly acidic fermentation environment can corrode metal containers and severely interfere with delicate microbial activity. Next, you need 4 gallons of clean, completely non-chlorinated water, because standard chlorinated tap water is specifically designed to kill bacteria and will completely destroy your wild microbial colony before it ever has a chance to establish. If you only have access to municipal tap water, simply leave it sitting in an open container under the direct sunlight for 24 hours to allow the harsh chlorine gases to evaporate naturally, though pure rainwater or clean well water is always the absolute best choice for this process. For the essential carbohydrate fuel that will power this explosive microbial bloom, take 1 pound of plain, unpeeled white potatoes, which is roughly 2 to 3 medium-sized potatoes. Wash them quickly to remove any heavy dirt, but leave the skins completely intact, then cut them into small chunks and boil them in about half a gallon of water for 20 to 30 minutes until they are soft enough to mash easily with a fork. This boiling process creates a beautiful, starch-rich carbohydrate broth that you will pour directly into your 5-gallon bucket along with the mashed potatoes themselves. To stabilize this solution, add exactly 2 tablespoons of unrefined sea salt or coarse rock salt, making absolutely sure to avoid iodized table salt or chemical salt substitutes. This natural sea salt provides critical trace minerals, regulates the osmotic pressure within the liquid, and selectively creates an environment that heavily favors the proliferation of beneficial native microbes while actively suppressing harmful pathogens. The final and most important ingredient is your biological starter culture, which consists of 1 to 2 cups of rich, crumbly leaf mold soil gathered directly from the floor of a local undisturbed forest. Simply walk into a nearby wooded area, push aside the very top layer of freshly fallen leaves, and scoop up the dark, earthy, sweet-smelling soil underneath, which is completely packed with a diverse, ancient community of native fungi and bacteria. To assemble the bioreactor, take 2 clean, breathable cloth bags or simple mesh socks, placing the mashed potatoes into one pouch and your collected forest soil into the other. Suspend both cloth pouches inside the bucket so they are fully submerged within the 4 gallons of non-chlorinated water. Add your sea salt and stir the entire mixture thoroughly with a clean wooden stick. Place the bucket in a warm, shaded area, ideally keeping the temperature consistently between 60 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit, and cover the top loosely with a cloth or a loose lid to keep insects out while allowing the fermentation gases to escape freely. Within 24 hours, you will notice a delicate layer of foam forming on the surface, and by 48 to 72 hours, depending on your local climate, this foam will transform into a thick, frothy, violently bubbling, yeasty cap, which is the ultimate visual cue that your microbial colony has reached its peak exponential growth phase and is completely ready for use. To apply this living hormonal cocktail to your garden, always dilute the concentrated solution at a strict ratio of 1 part microbial brew to 10 parts clean water, using it as a thorough soil drench around the base of your plants once every 2 to 3 weeks. Best of all, this incredible system is completely self-perpetuating, meaning that before you empty your bucket, you can simply save half a cup of the finished liquid to immediately inoculate a brand new batch of potato water, bypassing the need to gather forest soil ever again, and creating an infinite, permanent supply of free natural fertility for your land. While this traditional brewing method works wonders on large homesteads and expansive agricultural fields, it actually delivers its most revolutionary breakthrough within the challenging confines of modern urban gardens and container setups. If you are growing your crops in raised beds, fabric containers, or small plastic pots on a suburban patio, you are likely dealing with a silent, invisible crisis known as urban soil compaction and nutrient lock. Over time, repeated watering and the lack of a natural ecosystem cause potting mixes to pack down tightly, cutting off oxygen and forming strong chemical bonds that trap essential minerals in an unavailable form. This is exactly where our homemade microbial solution performs a spectacular hidden process called organic chelation. As the diverse wild bacteria ferment the potato starch within the bucket, they produce an abundance of mild, natural organic acids, such as acetic and lactic acids. When you pour this diluted liquid into your garden containers, these organic acids act like microscopic chemical claws, wrapping around locked-up minerals like phosphorus, iron, and calcium, breaking their tight bonds, and converting them instantly into a highly water-soluble form that small plant roots can effortlessly absorb. Within a single growing season, this natural chelation process completely transforms compacted, lifeless potting soil into a beautifully loose, crumbly, and nutrient-rich sponge, proving conclusively that real soil fertility is not an expensive commodity you must constantly buy in a plastic bottle, but rather a living, breathing ecosystem that any dedicated grower can successfully recreate for less than $2. As we look across our gardens today, it becomes beautifully clear that the ultimate key to a thriving, disease-resistant harvest has always been resting quietly right beneath our feet, waiting for us to look past the marketing illusions of the multi-billion-dollar commercial chemical industry. By stepping away from synthetic inputs and turning back to the profound, decentralized wisdom of natural farming, you are not just saving money, you are actively participating in a global movement to restore the living fabric of our planet. I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this natural journey, so please leave a comment below sharing your own personal experiences with organic gardening, or let me know how your very first batch of potato water turns out. Thank you so much for exploring the deep science of soil biology with me today. And if you found true value in this presentation, please hit that subscribe button to join our growing family of conscious stewards. Be sure to click on the very next video appearing on your screen right now, where we will dive incredibly deep into a single, common household waste ingredient that you are likely throwing away every single week, which, when combined with this exact microbial solution, unlocks an unprecedented level of vegetable yields that most modern gardeners would think is absolutely impossible, and I will see you right over there.